Welcome to our YouTube channel, The Alien Tales, and please ensure that you have subscribed.
I lost my virginity to an alien. She lost her immortality to a human. First love across species carries consequences neither of us understood. Now she ages while I carry the wisdom of eternity in teenage confusion. The meteorite that landed in Millbrook's cornfield wasn't really a meteorite. I figured that out when it started playing what sounded like intergalactic elevator music at 3 a.m. Being 17 and chronically unable to sleep, I snuck out to investigate. The meteorite was actually a sleek pod, humming with bioluminescent veins that pulsed like a heartbeat. Steam hissed from hairline cracks along its surface. "Please tell me you're not another government conspiracy," I muttered, because honestly, my small-town life was boring enough without black helicopters. The pod cracked open with a sound like breaking glass mixed with wind chimes. Inside lay the most beautiful girl I'd ever seen. If girls typically had silver hair that moved like liquid mercury and skin that shimmered with an opalescent sheen, she opened eyes the color of nebulas and immediately started coughing up what looked like stardust. "Ugh," she groaned in perfectly accented English. "Dimensional travel always makes me nauseous. And why does this planet smell like fertilizer?" "That's corn manure," I said helpfully. "You crashed in Farmer Henderson's field." She sat up, brushing cosmic debris from her form-fitting suit that seemed to be made of condensed moonlight. "Crashed? I'll have you know I executed a flawless emergency landing." She paused, looking around. "Where exactly am I?" "Earth. Specifically, the middle of nowhere, Iowa." Her face fell. "Iowa? I was aiming for the Andromeda Galaxy's most exclusive resort planet." She glared at a small device on her wrist that sparked pathetically. "Stupid navigation system." Something about her indignant expression made me grin. "Welcome to Millbrook. Population 847, not counting Mrs. Patterson's cats." Her name was Xyraleth, but call me XY, darling. The full name takes too long when you only live for eons. And she was having what she called a millennium quarter-life crisis. We sat in my bedroom, sharing leftover pizza while she explained why she'd stolen her father's ship. "Father expects me to choose a career path," she said, picking pepperoni off her slice with scientific curiosity. "Either destroyer of worlds or bringer of enlightenment. Frankly, both sound exhausting." "What do you want to do?" I asked, trying not to stare at how her hair caught the lamplight. "See the universe. Experience life. Maybe learn what this teenage rebellion thing is about." She gestured dramatically, accidentally knocking over my water glass with telekinetic energy that made the liquid dance in midair before settling back down. "Sorry," she winced. "Emotions make my powers wonky." I handed her a towel. "How old are you exactly?" 16. "In human years?" "In actual years. We age differently. 16 for me is like early adolescence, I suppose. I won't reach maturity for another 5 centuries. She bit into the pizza and made a face of pure bliss. "Oh my stars. This is incredible. What do you call this food?" "Pizza. It's basically our planetary religion." She laughed, a sound like silver bells mixed with cosmic wind. "I can see why. Your species has truly mastered something." We talked until dawn, and somewhere between explaining why humans find reality TV entertaining and learning about her people's peculiar mating rituals involving synchronized nebula dancing, I realized I was falling for an alien, which, in retrospect, should have been my first red flag. "There are rules," XY explained 3 days later, as we sat by Miller's Pond skipping stones. Well, I skipped stones while she made them hover and perform aerial acrobatics. "Rules about what?" I asked, though my stomach was already dropping. "Intimacy. Between our species." She caught a stone mid-flight and turned it into a tiny glowing star. "My people are immortal, yours aren't. Physical bonding creates complications." "What kind of complications?" She was quiet for a long moment, staring at the dancing star in her palm. "The immortal partner begins to age. The mortal partner gains some of our longevity, but not in the way you'd expect." "That doesn't sound so bad." "The aging is permanent, irreversible. And the longevity." She met my eyes. "Is more like wisdom and memory sharing. You'd carry centuries of experiences in a brain that's only lived 17 years. I should have been terrified. Instead, I felt oddly excited. So we'd both be changed? Permanently. And your people know this? It's why intimate contact with mortals is forbidden. She smiled sadly. It's considered the ultimate sacrifice. I reached for her hand, feeling the electric tingle of her alien energy. What if someone thought the person was worth it? She squeezed my fingers. Then they'd be a romantic fool. I can live with that. Her star flickered and went out. Bixen, are you suggesting? I'm suggesting maybe some rules are meant to be broken. For the first time since meeting her, XY looked genuinely afraid. We avoided each other for 2 days, which in a town of 847 people is basically impossible. I kept catching glimpses of her silver hair at the library, the diner, even helping Mrs. Patterson wrangle her cats. On the 3rd day, she appeared in my bedroom at midnight, materializing through the window like concentrated starlight. I've been thinking, she said without preamble. Dangerous hobby. She ignored my weak joke. I'm already breaking the biggest rule by being here. My father probably has half the galaxy looking for me by now. Will you get in trouble? Trouble? She laughed, but it wasn't her usual musical sound. I'll be grounded until the heat death of the universe. Literally, I sat up in bed. Then why are you here? Because, she said, sitting on my desk chair and spinning it with nervous energy. I realized something today while helping your neighbor rescue cats from trees. Immortality is lonely, Bixen. Terribly, eternally lonely. And I'd rather have 50 years of real connection than 5,000 years of existing without truly living. My heart hammered. XY, I'm not asking you to decide now, she said quickly. I'm just saying, if you meant what you said about some rules being worth breaking, she gestured, and suddenly my room filled with floating points of light, like having our own private galaxy. I brought us some atmosphere, she whispered. We stared at each other across the cosmic display, both knowing we were standing at the edge of something irreversible. Are you sure? I asked. She smiled, and for the first time it was sad and brave and completely human. I've never been less sure of anything in my life. When immortals and mortals join, the universe pays attention. It started as warmth spreading through my chest, then became something like lightning mixed with stardust coursing through my veins. XY gasped, her opalescent skin beginning to flush with human pink. It's happening, she whispered, wonder and terror mixing in her voice. Images flooded my mind, not my own memories but hers. Watching stars being born from the observation deck of her father's ship. Learning to manipulate gravity by playing with pet black holes. The loneliness of watching civilizations rise and fall like seasons. Bixen, she said, and I could hear centuries of weariness entering her voice. I can feel time differently now. It's heavy. I looked at my hands and saw faint lines that hadn't been there before. Not age exactly, but the weight of knowledge. In my head, I now knew the mathematical formula for faster-than-light travel and the proper way to address a quantum consciousness, alongside completely useless information like the fact that my Spanish teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, had been secretly dating the librarian for 3 years. How do you feel? XY asked, studying her reflection in my bedroom mirror. Her hair was still silver, but now it fell normally instead of floating. Her skin retained its shimmer but looked more human. Old, I said honestly, but not in a bad way. Like I understand things I never understood before. She touched her face wonderingly. I feel solid, grounded. Is this what mortality feels like? I think so. We held each other as the cosmic light show faded. Both of us fundamentally changed, neither sure if we'd made the right choice. I woke up knowing 17 languages, the recipe for interdimensional travel, and exactly why my parents had been fighting about money for the past 3 months. Dad's secret gambling problem, revealed by my new ability to read micro-expressions like an ancient text. XY was gone. Panic set in until I found her in the kitchen, staring at our coffee maker like it was an alien artifact. Which, from her perspective, it basically was. This machine is fascinating, she said, poking the power button. Such ingenious simplicity. It's just a coffee maker, XY. Nothing is just anything when you're seeing it for the first time as a mortal. She turned to me with wonder in her eyes. I can feel my heartbeat, Bixen. Actually feel it. Yesterday it was just background noise. like the humming of a star. Now it's music. I poured us both coffee, my hands steady despite carrying the knowledge of 17 different brewing methods from across the galaxy. Any regrets? I asked. She considered this, sipping her coffee and making a face. This is terrible. Welcome to mortality. Most of our beverages are terrible until you acquire the taste. Then no regrets, she grinned. If I can learn to appreciate terrible coffee, I can handle anything. That's when we heard the ships landing outside. Through the window, we saw 3 sleek vessels settling in the cornfield, their design making XY's little pod look like a toy. Figures in elaborate robes were emerging, and even from a distance, their disapproval was palpable. "Oh," XY said quietly. "Father found me." The cosmic cavalry had arrived, and they didn't look happy. XY's father was 12 feet tall, had skin like polished obsidian, and eyes that held the cold fire of dying stars. When he spoke, reality seemed to bend slightly around his words. "Daughter," he said in a voice like controlled thunder, "you will explain this catastrophe." We stood in my family's living room, my parents having been temporarily relocated to a pocket dimension for their safety, according to one of his companions. The aliens had shrunk themselves to fit inside, but the effect was like having angry gods crammed into a dollhouse. "Hello, Father," XY said with admirable calm. "This is Bixen." Her father's gaze turned to me, and I felt like an ant being examined by a scientist. "This is the mortal who corrupted my daughter?" "Actually," I said, because apparently gaining cosmic wisdom had also boosted my stupidity. "She corrupted me. I was a virgin." The silence that followed could have been used to suffocate entire solar systems. "Bixen," XY hissed, "perhaps now isn't the time for honesty. You have bonded," her father continued, ignoring my comment with the disdain reserved for particularly annoying insects. "The damage is irreversible." "It's not damage," XY said, stepping closer to me. "It's a choice that has cost you immortality and burdened this human with knowledge his species isn't meant to possess." "Hey," I protested. "I'm handling the cosmic knowledge pretty well, actually. Did you know your daughter's middle name translates to destroyer of inappropriate furniture?" XY buried her face in her hands. "That was supposed to be confidential." Her father's expression somehow managed to convey both infinite patience and the desire to erase me from existence. "This cannot stand," he declared. "There is a way," XY's father announced, "to reverse what has been done." Hope and dread warred in my chest. "What way?" "Memory extraction. We remove the bond's effects from both of you. The human returns to his original state, my daughter regains her immortality, and this incident never happened." "Except," said one of his companions, a being who looked like she was made of crystallized moonlight, "the process requires consent from both parties." XY and I looked at each other. In my head, I could feel echoes of her thoughts, not telepathy, exactly, but something deeper. She was terrified of losing what we'd found, but also afraid of what her choice had cost me. "What if we refuse?" I asked. "Then my daughter remains mortal, and you remain burdened with knowledge that will likely drive you insane before your 30th birthday." Her father replied matter-of-factly, "Humans aren't designed to process cosmic information. Your brain will eventually overflow." "Overflow?" XY asked sharply. "Think of it as existential indigestion," the crystalline woman explained. "Extremely unpleasant and ultimately fatal." I felt XY's hand slip into mine. Her father noticed the gesture, and for a moment, his stern expression softened into something almost resembling understanding. "You have 1 hour to decide," he said. "Choose wisely." As they stepped outside to wait, XY turned to me with tears in her eyes. Human tears, I realized, another thing she'd gained through our bond. "I'm so sorry, Bixen. I never meant to hurt you." I kissed her forehead, tasting salt and stardust. "We'll figure this out." But honestly, I had no idea how. "There might be another way," I said, pacing my bedroom while XY sat on the bed, looking more human and fragile than I'd ever seen her. "What way?" "I've been thinking about what your father said. The knowledge will drive me insane because human brains can't process it, right?" "Right, but what if my brain adapted? What if instead of fighting the cosmic knowledge, I learned to integrate it properly? XY shook her head. That's impossible. Humans don't have the neural plasticity for. Normal humans don't. I interrupted. But I'm not normal anymore, am I? The bond changed me. And according to all this cosmic knowledge rattling around in my head, adaptation is the universe's favorite trick. She stared at me. You're talking about evolving. Deliberately. Why not? Your people did it once, right? Became immortal through some kind of transcendence. That took millions of years. I don't have millions of years. But I have something your people didn't when they evolved. What? I grinned. A really good teacher who's motivated to keep me sane. Understanding dawned in her eyes. You want me to help you adapt to the knowledge instead of removing it. And in return, I help you learn how to be human. We figure it out together. That's... She paused, her face cycling through several expressions. That's either brilliant or completely insane. With our luck, probably both. We heard footsteps on the stairs, her father, coming for our decision. So, I said, taking her hand, ready to rewrite the rules of cosmic biology? She squeezed my fingers. Let's give it a shot. You want to do what? XY's father stared at us like we just suggested juggling black holes. Evolutionary adaptation, I repeated. Instead of removing the bond's effects, we're going to learn to live with them. Impossible. Maybe, XY said, standing beside me. But we'd like to try. Her father exchanged glances with his companions. The crystalline woman whispered something that sounded like cosmic wind chimes. Even if such a thing were possible, he said finally, it would take decades. Centuries, perhaps. Then will take centuries, I said. I've got the time now, and I've got the mortality to appreciate it, XY added. Something shifted in her father's expression. Surprise, maybe even approval. You would choose uncertainty over a clean solution? We'd choose each other, I said simply. The silence stretched until he sighed. A sound like solar wind across asteroid fields. Very well. But you will not do this alone. He gestured to his companions. Lyrics will monitor your progress. If the adaptation fails, if the human shows signs of cognitive breakdown, we will intervene. Deal, XY and I said simultaneously, as the ships departed, leaving only Lyrics behind, who immediately began critiquing our coffee maker. XY and I sat on my porch watching the stars. So, she said, any idea how to deliberately evolve a human brain? Not a clue, I admitted. But I figure we'll start with the basics. You teach me about cosmic consciousness. I'll teach you about being human. Sounds like a fair trade. I felt that electric tingle as she took my hand. Weaker now, but still there. Besides, I added, what's the worst that could happen? She looked at me with infinite affection and exasperation. Bixen, you really need to stop asking questions like that. Above us, the stars seemed to twinkle with cosmic laughter.